So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday's edition of 1 Million Cups Fairfax. I am James Lawson. I am going to be your MC for this morning. Thanks for joining us, whether you're here in person or joining us remotely. So, for those of you who don't know much about the Coffin Foundation or 1 Million Cups, they work with communities in entrepreneurship and education to increase opportunities that allow all people to learn, to take risks, and to own their own success. Now, we do have a national and a local mission. We work towards this mission through creating a consistent educational experience for each one MC presenter nationwide, while also highlighting the uniqueness and value proposition in each local startup community. Now, like all organizations, we have our key pillars. We have 4 of them. Number 1 is we do presentations, not pitches. This is not a place to come to try and raise money, but we do want to hear from you about your business and your challenges. We do look for authentic connections. It's not networking. Think of us more as a mastermind community, all designed to kind of help you through whatever challenge you might have. We are run for the community, by the community, and we are radically and intentionally inclusive. So we'd like to welcome our visitors. If you are new to 1 Million Cups, please go ahead, raise your hand, and when called on, please give us your name, your company name, and how you heard about us. Is there anyone? Anyone there? All right, well, we'll move on, and we can come back to that later on. If you are new, we'll find you at the end of the presentation. So on your screen right now, you will see a QR code. If you have your phone handy, please go ahead and scan the QR code. It helps us track our visitors, helps us track our attendance over time, and lets the Coffin Foundation see that we are, in fact, an engaged community of entrepreneurs. If you don't have it handy right now, don't worry. The QR code will come back up later on in the presentation. So as I said earlier, we're run by the community for the community, and this is our team of organizers and brand ambassadors. We are always looking for more organizers. So if you're a regular attendee to 1 Million Cups and might be interested in becoming an organizer, you can scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner. That will take you to a way to communicate with one other member of our organizing team. We can set up a meeting and discuss exactly what's involved in becoming an organizer. So please do. Now, we have 2 main sponsors of 1 Million Cups. The George Mason Enterprise Center, and I'm going to ask Jen to talk a little bit about them. And then we have our coffee sponsor for this month. So Jen, over to you.
I think you did this on purpose. I can't even see if I'm short or, well, I know I'm short, but there we go. Let's hope that works. Anybody quality? Yeah. Okay. Funniest joke ever. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thrilled to have you here at Mason Enterprise Center, Fairfax, physically, or if you're joining us virtually, thrilled to have you here virtually. Mason Enterprise Center is an incubator for small businesses who are looking to scale. Anything from businesses who provide services like law firms, CPAs, to tech startups. They even have a company who teaches chess to high school students in the area. So if you know of someone who's looking for a virtual membership where they can have access to conference space or training space like we have here, if you're looking, if you know a business owner is looking for mentorship, they have over 20 dedicated mentors that are all part of the package. So free mentorship to help you. They're also part of the ICAP program and SBDC. So there's a ton of resources at Mason Enterprise Center in Fairfax. If you are interested, please reach out to Eddie Hill, and I will put a link to the website in chat. And now someone who is also a teeny bit taller than me, but this setup should still work. AJ, if you want to come up.
Good morning, 1 Million Cups. I'm AJ from BizApps. Everybody's doing fine? Okay. So imagine your marketing running on autopilot, converting visitors into customers while you stay focused on running your business. That's exactly what we deliver at bizappsforme.com. Most companies are stuck with disconnected ads, videos, and campaigns that just don't convert. And we fix that. With BizApps, you get full stack of AI-powered suite, the strategy and the tactics, all built to work together. We turn your physical and digital touch points into interactive, measurable, high-impact marketing assets or market assets. The result is higher engagement, better conversion, clear ROI, and campaigns that scale and not stall. I would love to show you how we can put your growth on autopilot. So contact me and let's talk. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ. So let's talk a little bit about how the meeting is going to work. So in a second, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Timothy, who's going to walk you through his presentation and his challenge question. At the end of the presentation, we'll move into Q&A. That'll be moderated by Maria. You're doing the Q&A? Oh, Scott's my apologies, Scott. Excellent. So here's the thing. Keep yourself on mute until you are given the freedom to ask your question. Try and keep your question really concise and to the point so we can get through as many questions as humanly possible. So with all that being said, Timothy Coffin, I am going to turn the presentation over to you. And thank you for being here.
So do I have to talk like that when
Yeah.
I'm doing my presentation, or do
Yeah,
I need to talk like me?
You can talk like you. That's totally fine. Just feed yourself through.
First slide. So how can Conquiro best acquire institutional healthcare customers and capital? So, my challenge question, I guess, is, we are a startup. We are working in the healthcare community, which is a dog-eat-dog world. One of the things I need to do is I'm putting enterprise level systems into hospitals. So I am looking for ways to penetrate that market. And I'm really focusing on hospitals that are 200 beds or more initially. Eventually, our company, as it grows, will move into smaller hospitals in that market. And we will also move across the healthcare spectrum into things like occupational hospitals, rehab hospitals, nursing homes, and that type of stuff. But our initial focus is working in that smaller end. And then obviously, as a startup, my wife is getting irritated that I keep spending her play money on my business. So I am looking for funding. When you look at the penetrator, when we install a hospital, we have to install something like 10,000 sensors with 10,000 sensors in the hospital. Sorry, I don't see anybody there. So we have to put about 10,000 sensors in the hospital. So our production costs and starting up a new customer are high. So we're building out our prototypes and we need money to scale. So that's what we're looking at. And I guess that's really every business's problem. So, at Conquiro, we are really looking at building a system that finds equipment when you need it, bottom line. About 8 years ago, my son was in an emergency room and he had a problem with his leg. He had a cast on his leg and he started to swell and developed this thing called compartment syndrome, or hadn't developed it, but was in the process of developing it. And that little piece of equipment there, the cast saw, was broken, or it didn't work in the emergency room. And come to find out, there is no way for clinicians in a hospital to find a piece of equipment when they need it. So after a fight between the nurses, one going, well, you brought him down, you go find it. Well, no, you go find it because this is a problem. The doctor said, oh, to hell with it, I'll go look for it. And, the doctor who was supposed to be taking care of my son was running around the hospital for 35 minutes looking for another piece of equipment. By the time this person got back, my son had a full-blown compartment syndrome. It had killed the nerves in his leg, put him into septic shock, and he almost died. And the result of that was he spent the next 4 months in the hospital and 22 more surgeries, as opposed to a small surgery to remove a bone spur. This is actually something that happens in hospitals all the time. I know of cases since I started looking this where patients have died because equipment wasn't available. It's also a problem that we don't talk about because nobody's going to document we lost a piece of equipment and couldn't save the patient. Lawyers won't let you do it. So it's not something you hear about every day, but you do if you work in the hospital. This problem is a lot bigger than we thought. Hospitals lose $12 billion annually in revenue across the United States due to this problem. Nurses, clinicians they spend 72 minutes per shift just looking for equipment, not taking care of patients. And hospitals across the United States, on average, it's a documented number, lose $4,000 per bed per year in equipment that's either lost, stolen, or misplaced. This results, like I said, in $12 billion annual revenue loss. It really increases clinician burnouts when they're running around looking for things. And as you've seen in my son's case, it can cause serious patient harm. What we've done is taking a look at this is created an AI-enabled real-time equipment location and status system that works in mobile and desktop apps. It will prevent equipment loss because we do geofence the equipment. So if it goes out of its area, we know where it is. If it leaves the hospital, we notify security, and has sort of an Apple tag feature so we know where it goes. Streamlines workflow processes so we know when and where equipment is being used. The maintenance folks, when you run around a hospital right now, you see pieces of equipment with colored pieces of tape. That's how they say it's broken or it needs to be fixed. And they don't have a way of tracking them. So these guys have to run around the hospital and look for this equipment. So we have a way of tracking that. It will save the clinicians time. It will improve patient outcomes. And by implementing this system, we'll reduce that revenue loss due to these equipment problems by 75%. Our goal, like I said, is to determine where the location and status of the equipment is. We have a series of hardware, RFID tags. That's a small part of our solution, but it is there. Readers, sensors, a back-end AI engine, and several other systems that work with this. We use sensors and tags to autonomously track equipment. The real goal of this is to not create an additional burden on the medical staff. So as they move equipment, it automatically tracks who's moving it, where it's moving, and where it goes. There are systems out right now that sort of do this, but requires them to scan a barcode on the equipment, scan a barcode on the clinician, scan a barcode on the room. And when they move it, they have to do that in reverse, scan the room, scan the barcode, and scan the nurse again. If you're stealing the equipment, you don't go through that process because you don't want it tracked. And if you're in an emergency, you don't really have time to do that. So the equipment gets moved and eventually gets lost. And so this system does it automatically. And since we use travel nurses, we also map it out. So if I say go to room 235, they're going to go, where's that? We create a map, basically GPS within the hospital. The market right now, it's a $45 billion market in the US. It's about 150 billion worldwide. We are looking at hospitals and nursing homes in the US as our initial market. That's about a $5 billion market. And as I said, we're focused on those 200 plus beds facilities, which, are the hospitals like the ones in this area. And that's about a $500 million market to start with. So it's a good chunk of change to go after. When you look at our equipment, this is not a new industry. There are a lot of different businesses in the industry. None of them focus on all the stakeholders within the hospital. So hospitals basically have three systems to do all this work. The clinicians, there really is not a system out there to show the clinicians where the hospitals are because that's not really the focus of hospital equipment, believe it or not. The focus of asset management is bean counters. We log it in, we track it for the sense of we own it, but then we throw it out in the wild and we can't find it. So it ends up disappearing. So, and then maintenance, the biomedical folks have to keep the software up to date. So if they have 800 IV pumps within a hospital, they have to basically find a way to track them to make sure that all of them are updated and have the correct software. We can find those, track them, and check them off as they do it, and visually show them where they're located in the hospital. We have really had great traction. We had a test this summer with the Ruth Whitaker School of Behavioral Health and Health Sciences. That's Hood College. I teach at Hood. I also teach at George Mason, incidentally. So we were able to show that we had 100% recovery of equipment when using Conquiro, and an 87% recovery rate when they weren't using our system. What that means is 13% of the time, a patient was not being treated correctly. And we had an 80% reduction, and actually an 85% reduction. 80% reduction in the time it took to locate the equipment and bring it back, and an 85% reduction in the distance travel. And by that, I mean, when you don't know where the equipment is, you're wandering around going room to room looking for it. With us, you go directly. We also showed the catch-up effect, which is this inattentiveness. We had many cases where a clinician would walk into a room, see the equipment, and not see the equipment. They would go in 2 or 3 times looking for it and just not be able to physically or not recognize that it's the piece of equipment they were looking for and walk out. It's like when your wife says, go find the ketchup, and you say it's not in here. She goes, oh, well, it's on the door. It's like, oh, well, there it is. So when our people went into the room knowing the equipment was there, they saw it immediately. But when they didn't know it was there, they would be distracted by other things. So that was a significant finding, not something we were looking for. We have a paid pilot with MedStar starting in January 2025, which is really going to be our first customer, assuming things go well. We just closed with our lead investor this month, probably last week. So we've started our fundraising, and we have an exclusive license called Atlas, which is our technology, the basis of our technology. It's the automated type and location identification system. This is technology we got from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. It can tell us what the equipment is, where the equipment is, and we can actually control power levels of the equipment. So we can shut it down if we need to, we can locate it, but because we can monitor power levels, we have the ability to do predictive diagnostics using AI algorithms that we've developed. It's really good stuff. And because it's power load, it's also green tech. We have multiple different prototypes. You know, you can see we've made progress starting with a large prototype and shrinking it as we move forward. And we've got multimode communications just so we don't interfere with bandwidth. This is my team. I've done multiple startups and exits, 3 successful exits. McLean has been doing software engineering for other healthcare companies, and Michael is my chief data officer who's got a background in AI. My background's AI also. Hamish Stewart, it runs a company, or it works for a company called BDO, which is a large healthcare consulting firm. Tom Reed is a former congressman who worked on Ways and Means overseeing healthcare, and Kim is sort of our technology expert at the lab. Our model is a SaaS model. We're doing a 3-tier subscription with a per licensed bed, because licensed beds are legislated or regulated by the state. We have services like data analytics as a service, support packages, and we're doing consulting to do optimization and workflow stuff. Our pricing for a hospital is going to be about $350K subscription per year, about a 300 onboarding. We expect about 100 to 125, 150,000 in consulting revenue every year. Our goal is probably, hopefully, is 150 hospitals by the end of 2028. That may be 2029. What we're doing right now is we've started our seed round of 1.2 million. We're going to use 800 for engineering and development of our products, 200 for management, you know, lawyers, accountants, those types of things, and 200 for sales and marketing. What we're asking for your help is, you know, help identifying the appropriate investors to take us forward. We have a deal with New York. If we bring in some money up to 500,000 in the next 120 days since we started our round, they'll match it. And then we need help with penetration of hospital customers, you know, nursing, clinicians, those types of things. That's kind of what we're looking for to develop more institutions. So, you know, when we look at this, how can we acquire more of these institutional health customers? A lot of these hospitals are multi-location, you know, 5, 10, 20 hospitals. So one sale is a large sale. And, you know, how do we better acquire the capital that we're looking for?
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Timothy.
Hey, yeah. If there's any questions, let me know.
Well, we understand you. Level.
All right, thank you so much, Timothy.
Sorry.
You're not
We
done
have
yet?
we're gonna have some questions and comments from our community here. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that I call upon everyone in the order of hands that are raised, but please also let me know, for those that are in the room, any questions that come up. And we are going to start and kick it off with Trisha. So Trisha, please ask your question.
didn't know I was the first to raise my hand. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting an echo. So my first question is, sorry, let me get rid of this echo.
I don't
It's
hear.
$350 per year per hospital.
Correct.
Is there a way to translate to a pay for performance model?
You mean cost recovery?
Sure.
There is, but it's not something we're interested in. The cost recovery model requires us to take all the risk. It requires us to pay for the institution of the well, we would pay for the equipment also. And determining cost recovery is a fungible item. So it's not most investors are looking for the SaaS model, not a cost recovery model. It's harder to find investors when you're looking at a model like that.
The reason I ask is for $350K, you're a new company and you need to prove the value of what you're doing. So maybe pitch it to me differently then. If I'm a hospital, show me how I'm definitely getting that $350K back so I can explain to the board why I spent this money.
Well, I mean, I do for my customers, I do have the ROI model for them. If you look at a reduction in your workforce, I mean, if we can truly save, the documented number of 75 minutes per shift is well documented. If I can reduce that search time down to say 20 minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes a shift, that actually changes my personnel numbers in the hospital. I need less nurses to do the same amount of work. Additionally, the loss rate of equipment in a hospital, a lot of it gets stolen, incidentally. If we can reduce that shrinkage in their processes, that is something that will actually reduce their equipment burden also.
The loss rate is more interesting because it's unlikely that we're going to, take pride in reducing our staff. So are there some numbers you can show us for the loss rate, like the cost of like 2 pieces of equipment? Like what's the average number of pieces of equipment that are stolen? You're going to maybe be able to track those pieces of equipment. I just think it needs to be more concrete.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. I talked to a CEO, a couple months ago, and I said, "Well, has this been a problem?" He goes, I don't know why to talk about this because it's embarrassing, but I had one of our vendors come in and looking for, I think it was a dialysis machine or something like it. It was a $350,000 piece of equipment. He came in to update and he goes, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but we lost it. It's like, well, what do you mean we lost it? He said, well, we just don't know where it is. And the vendor said, well, it's still reporting. It's still looking for results. So they went to the vendor and they did a reverse IP search, and they found out after this investigation, a nurse had taken it home and was running a business out of her garage, basically a back-end healthcare business. So these kinds of things happened all the time. And there is so much equipment in a hospital, it can't be tracked. If someone in a lab is walking with a piece of equipment in the hospital, nobody questions them.
Yeah. No,
So,
this is great. We have a lot of questions and I want to make sure we get to all of them. So keep answers brief where we can.
Sure.
So I have Brad and then Dan.
Go ahead, Brad.
Hi, good morning. Just as a way of context, at my previous employer, I did a lot of writing in the health sciences related mostly to curriculum for career and technical schools. So I know a little bit of the field you're trying to get into. Just as a comment, I know Scott and I both went to college at the same time as the gentleman, Jake Lucilarian, who's now CEO of Gecko Robotics, and they're doing kind of a similar thing, trying to integrate AI into longevity on structures like nuclear power plants and bridges and things of that nature. So I definitely think the market is there, and being able to prevent the losses that you've mentioned. I think my question or recommend maybe angle that you could take in marketing this is looking at a concept of the health worker gap. That's something I wrote an article on last year. It's definitely was the angle of marketing for my previous company for their health science curriculum. The idea that in part because baby boomers are getting older, and we have this certain population and a presumed need for more healthcare workers in the near future. There's more to track, there's more to keep a hold of. There's more facilities being constructed, even in my area as well. And I think that's a good angle to take, that an angle of preparation for what the next 20 years are going to look like in health sciences. So I think that is something you can perhaps tap into in your marketing to encourage hospitals and other medical facilities to invest in their future.
And we do that. And Tricia, to your point earlier, we are not going in and saying you can get rid of people. Most hospitals have to spend significant amount of extra money to bring in temporary nursing, usually travel nurses from other people, and they basically pay a premium on those resources. What we're talking about is allowing hospitals to not have to bring in those extra resources, and really, be able to handle their workload with the existing resources. So what was the next question?
So we have Dan, then Luis, then Melinda.
Thank you for your time this morning. Great presentation, great idea. My wife is a nurse and she audits medical bills, and there's so much fat in medical bills. It's just amazing. She makes her salary 3 times a week. So you may have covered this, but is the how are things scanned? Is it automatic? You said you have RFID tags. Are things automatically scanned when an equipment, because she has talked about equipment not being available, and or maybe they have several deep in some item that they don't need, so those items are just sitting, and then maybe really expensive pieces of medical equipment that just sit. That's my first question, is how is it scanned? Because anything else added to the nurse or the healthcare people's schedule is something that they may not do. So, and my other question is, who are you trying to talk to at hospitals? Is it? I mean, it's got to be the accounting people, because the healthcare people probably they can exhibit satisfaction or dissatisfaction, but they don't make the money decisions. If you could answer those 2 questions first.
Sure. I'll answer the question, who do we talk to first? We are talking to chief medical and chief nursing, but we are also talking to contracts and, like operations, like the chief operating officer, chief information officer. So really a multi-vector approach into entering a hospital. It's not just a single vector.
Yeah.
And the first question was,
it automatically scanned. If it's scanned
so
automatically.
what the whole point of our device is that it's an automatic tracking system. So we are instrumenting the hospital. We're using either using ultra wideband and Zigbee, so we can do 3 multi-dimensional tracking. We have like 6-inch spherical probability of location, so we know what room it's in. We could tell you what plug it's really plugged into in a room. If it's stuck in a closet, we'll be able to tell you it's there. One of the problems we saw in COVID is that clinicians were actually hoarding equipment, because they didn't want to lose it. So they would go and stuff 10 IV pumps in a closet so nobody else could find them. And from an administrative perspective, we can alleviate that problem, because no matter where they are in the building, we will know where they are. So if this hoarding behavior happens, we can make sure that those resources are dispersed appropriately.
Sure. And something else, and this is other facilities like skilled nursing facilities and nursing homes may not have an abundance of equipment. They have one. And so where it is, not knowing where it is at the time they need it. So that's important too. I have lots of questions, but I don't want to hijack the meeting. Okay. So
too late, Dan Lumber. You have already hijacked the meeting, but we appreciated all of your questions.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Dan. Luis, and then Melinda.
Hey, Dr. Great presentation. So I'll just ask a couple of questions, and then I'll ask if you would be open to connecting afterwards, right?
Yes.
I've worked on this problem for a long time, right? I'm just surprised that it still exists, right? And I mean, there's an abundance of people who will exhibit frustration, right? And so my one question is, what have you found are the objections that are coming up when you come in? Because this is a very much needed. I mean, if you talk to any hospital, you won't have to sell them. They'll tell you, just like the CEO you met with, it's actually embarrassing, right? So curious to know what the objections are that you're hitting up against.
I'm not, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
When I go into a hospital, nobody goes, well, this is dumb. We don't need this. Everybody goes, yeah, we have this problem. Not just from the clinician perspective, but the biomedical perspective. How do
Mhm.
we keep our systems updated? And I mean, they literally have to wander around
Yep.
and, wander around the hospital and find broken pieces. So,
Yep.
and then how do they get them all updated? So
Yeah.
I'm not really finding any technical objections.
No, that
You
that
know,
wasn't my question. I'm sorry. I
I
should have.
think
Yeah.
time is the biggest objection.
Yeah.
Getting on
My question was
schedule.
more, yeah,
Yeah.
like I said before, I've been trying to solve this problem
Yeah.
for a while, and we basically moved on.
Mhm.
But my question is with the amount of waste there is, because there's a huge waste,
Mhm.
it's you won't see any objections from people. They won't say, hey, this doesn't work.
Right.
It's like there is a significant saving. So my question on the objection was, what's keeping them from realizing that savings? Because it seems to be low-hanging fruit, right? So that was my question.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years. I spent the first 5 years, trying to answer the question, why doesn't this exist? Because it seems to make common sense. It's just nobody's done it. There are systems that do part of it, but yeah, people are focused on other issues. How do we cure cancer? Not how do we make equipment not disappear? They track it, for administrative purposes, but not for clinical purposes.
Yeah.
And there are other features of our system, like an operations suite that will basically track all the mobile equipment within an OR. And, if I say I've got, a heart cath, it will say, these are the 10 pieces of equipment you need. And then you're flipping it. Right now, a nurse has to go in with a pad and paper and write down every piece of equipment in there for the last surgery and say, what do I need for the next surgery? And then start swapping it out. What we do is what we will do when our surgical suite is online is to say, this is what's in the room now for this procedure, this new procedure, it's this. Here are the 5 pieces of equipment you need to bring in. Here's the 5 you need to take out. And the future of our company is to introduce robotics into that. So the nurse doesn't have to go get the equipment. The equipment will come to you. But that's a future implementation technology effort.
All
And
right. Thank you so much.
Ready for the robots yet?
Melinda and then AJ.
This is a horrific problem that you've identified. And
It was for my family.
yeah, a lot of industries have gone to these scanning processes, like scanning what they need to ship, scanning
Right.
what their inventory is. It's a really easy fix as you've come up with a lot of solutions. But one of the things that I know about hospitals is a lot of the decisions are made by the CFOs.
Right.
And now with the inclusion of the CIOs, because it's a merge of getting hospitals updated. It sounds like they're back in the 20th century, not the 21st century. Some of the thoughts that I had that I'm marketing, so you're going to hear marketing stuff from me, is that you've got a great member of staff and people that you're working with. You guys need to start getting out and speaking at events. I did it, and I'll send it to you later. While I was waiting, I just did it in Google, but I'll do it in more detail. There are lots and lots of medical trade shows. I don't know the types you want, but you need to be there as a speaker. You need to almost be there as somebody talking about the future for hospitals and then getting into what your process does as a keynote. That would really put you in front of a lot of the right people. And I'll stop with that one because I know I need to pass the ball on to somebody else, and I'll come back with other ideas that I've written down.
I have been doing, I've done a couple podcasts recently for different areas. Like I did a technology podcast. I did sort of a TED Talk type thing last week, which was AI in the future of healthcare, which talked about these things. So I have been speaking. I was down at MHX, which is the World Health Conference, had 65,000 people in 35 countries represented. So I was a speaker there and actually was in their entrepreneur program. So I am trying to get out, and there's my partners are speaking also in New York and areas like that. So I do agree that's very important, and we're starting to write papers and try to get publications on the problem. The one thing you said about that the tagging, that's easy. It is easy, but it's really hard to get the people stealing equipment to track it, tag it for you when they're taking it out. For some reason, they don't want to do that.
That's good. That's good. AJ, and then Greg, and then John and Jen.
All right, I'm here, Tim.
AJ, I have a
Oh.
question.
Yeah.
Can you just ask the question? We've got a microphone. You can come up here if you want. Otherwise, it's echoing.
So where do I turn?
Side by side. You can look at the camera, and so will AJ.
As a part of your marketing effort, have you thought about contacting or teaming up with the guys who are already like in the hardware?
Walk closer to the microphone, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question I get all the time. Have I thought about partnering with existing equipment manufacturers? The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
I don't want to give away my company right now.
Correct.
But my exit strategy for this company, when you look at the acquisition in the healthcare world, people aren't buying a company for customers. They're not buying company for, expansion in the market. What they are doing is buying adjacent companies to expand their offering to the healthcare world. So I wholeheartedly expect a company like Cerner or Epic or maybe Welch Allyn, someone like that, to be the acquirer of our company in the long run. So while we don't want to, because large companies, they really don't do innovation. They buy small companies that do innovation. So that is our exit strategy, actually, is to partner with them. And if we build a big enough corpus of knowledge, because we are going to be tracking predictive maintenance on just about every piece of mobile equipment, that will become an asset for us. We will have information on vendors' equipment that the vendors won't necessarily have, because we will have front-end data. So we will be partnering with them and maybe even getting our device incorporated in their system in the future. But we have to grow to do that.
My last question here is
AJ, we do have quite a few questions to get to, but thank you so much for your question. We really do appreciate it.
I can ask you.
Greg.
All right. Good morning, Tim. Great presentation. And what a phenomenal problem to solve. And as somebody with asset and loss prevention background in different spaces, I can completely understand the challenge you're facing. I have no context in the medical space, so I'm not going to focus on anything there. But from an entrepreneurial perspective, if I could, and I don't know your costing structure, but some things coming to mind. 2 points I'll make very quickly. One is you want enrollment, right? You need subscribers, you need people to come on board. So how can you structure the offer so that it's so ridiculous they can't say no? And what I'm wondering is, because you have the initial subscription and then you have ongoing support and services, could you play around with those numbers where that entry cost may be a little lost later, but you make it up in your long-term lifetime value? And maybe you've already fine-tuned those things. I don't know. But if you can structure the deal where it just becomes like, my gosh, if I don't do this, I'm the idiot, right? Because you can tell you're touching a pain point. And if the cost is one of the friction points, if you can pull that down even temporarily while you get your subscribers, that lifetime value will bring it back. That's point one. Point two, healthcare is not the only industry that has this problem. There's a small organization called the DoD that seems it can't pass an audit. Can you white label can you prime investors the idea that once this is successful, this could be white labeled into other industries and bring in investors on the idea that, hey, we're not going to do this in the first 3 years, but once we get this successful, we're going to be able to white label this and move it into other industries where there's even bigger returns. So those are the two thoughts I had.
So my background of developing this system was doing maintenance on the B-22 and the B-2 and the F-22. I developed this technology and the predictive analytics, setting up maintenance systems for DoD. So that thought has crossed my mind. I do have a service disabled veteran-owned small business that I own that will be the pathway into DoD. So that has not also crossed my mind. And DoD has a lot of hospitals. So yeah, it will be a target, but I can't boil the ocean. I also know that the sales cycle for DoD is 2 to 3 years. So I have a lot of experience writing proposals and working in that field. It's also why I have a former congressman on my board who's pretty strong in the defense area. So yes, that's a process that we're going to go through.
Thank you, Timothy. And we are going to go for John and Jen, and then Dan, and I think that's going to wrap as far as questions.
Timothy, thank you for being here today, for your presentation. Of course, best of luck. In looking at your uses of funds, and in looking at your challenge question, you're not allocating sufficient funding to the sales effort involved in getting 150 hospitals over the next 3 years. Now, you mentioned a demo starting, you said January 25, you may have meant 26, or you're almost a year in. Am I correct? You have a first.
Yeah, January 26.
Okay. And I'd love you, for one, you need a sales team. You are not the sales team.
I agree.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you agree, because if a person who spent time creating the maintenance systems for those planes, etc., is not the salesperson who's walking in. I love my colleagues, but you want to be talking, I believe, to CEOs. Sure, the head of nursing, the head of medicine, they're really very, very important. And you may be told to go get their advice. But when you talk to the boss, that's where stuff happens.
Yeah, that's who I talk to.
Okay, so tell us a little about the program that you're going to be starting on January, because that success is everything. Because you can't start sales till you have that.
Yeah, the pilot we're doing with MedStar is basically a full implementation of our system across not the whole hospital, but a couple departments, where we'll be tagging all the systems, implementing our APIs and tying it into their existing systems, and then also putting the app in mobile, the desktop apps, so that the clinicians and that everybody has access to their dashboard. We don't have one dashboard. We have, a couple dashboards. We have a clinician dashboard, biomedical dashboard, and a security dashboard, and, an admin dashboard. So everybody will have access to see what's going on and know where the stuff is. So it's a full implementation of the system. We did an implementation in the spring. We learned some stuff about our equipment, and where we went into our final design with building our PCBs right now. So it just, we're going to need 300-400 different devices, plus servers and stuff like that to implement. As far as sales, I have already identified my chief of sales, and she is a nurse clinician that's been selling to hospitals for years. I plan on using clinical salespeople. I already have probably 10 nurses across the country who have been doing hospital sales. They're the ones that you can't BS when you say this isn't a problem. So I've already got them identified. The only reason I need $200,000 to bring my VP on, and she can start the initial 2 or 3 or 4 hospitals. but the revenue generated from then will go back into the sales force to bring on the other 6 to 10 people. So I know it's going to take a force because we got 6,800 hospitals across the US. Our focus is going to be mid-Atlantic. I'm talking too long to start, but then we'll move out to Texas and California.
All right, Jen and Dan.
Thank you, Scott. Tim, great presentation.
Thank you.
A few introductions I'd like to make, and I'll talk with you about them offline, but I think it would ease the way to getting into a CEO or CFO conversation is to have someone be your advocate, whether it's companies that rebuild or redo hospital spaces who already have an relationship. It sounds like you're already doing hopefully case studies based on this upcoming current pilot and upcoming work. I think your story is powerful. So although you need a sales team, I think your story makes a huge difference. I mean, that was, it's an important thing to share. I might even look at doing a TED Talk in the Mid-Atlantic region, just so you can have that evidence. And lastly, thank you for sharing about your exit strategy. I might think about doing a monthly webinar. Where you feature healthcare innovations and you bring in people who care about those things together, whether it's an intimate, dinner in person or whether it's a webinar, and you could do some marketing on LinkedIn and advertising behind that. So I know I threw in like 6, but I was just following Dan Lender's track.
So I don't know if BDO is one of the largest healthcare equipment consulting firms.
And do joint events.
What's that?
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
And on my board is Hamish Smith, who's really the head of North America for BDO, or at least he was until last month.
So I would talk with them about it. Can you be a webinar strategy through their network? Because you've got so much you could share in a lot of different ways you could come up.
That's my Wednesday call.
Love it. Fantastic.
But that's a great idea.
Thank you, Jen. Dan Lender.
Hey, thank you. And I have so many questions. I can definitely see this idea being stolen and your IP being compromised. And so by an Epic or someone else who's, has a much bigger footprint in hospitals. So, and I'm sure you've thought about that. And I was thinking about, since you've done work in the DoD, you may have some into the VA hospital system, which is a mess. And so their answer is just to buy more when they lose stuff. And the last question is, who has access, or can nurses and the healthcare staff, and you talked about this a little bit before, who can actually see? Do they have read-only access to where equipment is? Because in a last minute they go looking for something, and they got to be able to find it very quickly. So who has access to it, and where is it shown to the healthcare staff?
Well, anybody that has access to the app will have access to where it is. When someone goes and does a search for a piece of equipment and they basically say, I'm going to get this one, it goes off the available list into the reserved. And when they retrieve it, it goes into the active list. And then, after that, it goes into the needs to be clean list or needs to be updated. So anyone can retrieve equipment. And we're not just limiting it to nurses, because nurses aren't the only people that are running to get stuff.
Sure.
Other clinicians do. So anybody that has the app can see where the equipment is. And that's kind of the whole point, is that we want everybody to have a view of it. Now, not everybody will be able to retrieve equipment. In fact, if your equipment is moving by someone that's not in the system to be moving equipment, that will actually set off an alert to say, hey, this is going somewhere and not by someone that should be moving it. So that's part of the security system too.
We are on to the lightning round of questions. So thank you so much, Dan. We're going to go with John and then Reggie.
Yeah, my comment may be outside of the box for you, but what I'm interested in is, if I own MedStar and I have a piece of equipment traveling around the building, I would be interested in the analytics of how many times a day that's used. What is the profitability of it? How, are we wasting money of buying 10 when we could get by with 6 of them? I think that analytic data for a hospitalist or whoever's running that business would be extremely interesting.
I'm absolutely counting on that.
And I think that's the real money. I think nothing wrong, nothing wrong with your current model. My other question on your current model is, what is the again, I don't know anything about this, the implementation cost when you actually get MedStar to say, okay, we need to put how many RFID readers? That process seems very, very labor intensive. And I don't know how that works from profitability, but that just seems very labor intensive.
Well, I mean, basically we'll be working, I mean, what you're talking about is putting a plug on a piece of equipment. So it is labor intensive. It's going to require someone to go in and plug these things in. Wouldn't necessarily be our staff. We do have the ability to do the implementation ourselves. And we are looking at that option. But that's part of our acquisition costs.
What if the plug gets disconnected from a piece?
It's going to, the part of the plug, I mean, it's going to have to be forcibly taken off. But we will get an alert that says this is no longer connected. So it's not just plugged in, it's plugged in secured.
And it can locate that device, right?
Correct.
All right. That's
All right. Thank you, John. And Reggie, wrap us up.
Yes, I was going to mention Connectpreneur. I put the link in the chat.
That was one of the first places I talked 2 years ago.
Okay, great. And also, I was wondering about the capability to provide information about maintenance and service that might be needed or required for equipment, if that was a feature of your tool or not, or does it just say location or status? Because that's really important and can help save money as well.
A lot of our AI is centered around predictive maintenance on a variety of different equipment systems. So yeah, we'll be actually not only telling them we're going to basically tell them before it's going to fail, hopefully, that it has a problem. That's what I started doing on aircraft. I can do it on hospital equipment. So that predictive maintenance is all part of our biomedical module that does where it is, if it needs to be updated, those kinds of things. So that's a big part of the system.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a huge selling point. So thanks.
And just my background is health informatics. It is healthcare data. So that is, obviously the AI is centered around how to make this a business system, not just a healthcare system.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to James to wrap us up.
Thanks so much. Timothy, just stand here for a second. Guys, thanks for all the questions. I want to get back to sharing the presentation so we can ask the final question. What else can the 1 Million Cups community do to help you, Timothy?
Well, if you can think of anything I haven't thought of, that would be helpful. There is a lot, I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes. Just ask my wife. Like I said, the introductions are what I need, how to talk to the investors and, how to talk to more hospitals.
Awesome.
So,
all right.
Anybody that lost some stuff, just have them give me a call.
All right. We'll do what we
you.
can. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Awesome presentation. So as we continue on, next week, it will be Margot Halstead, who will be here presenting. Now, Margot presented some months ago, so she's going to come back and update us on where she is with her business and what's been happening. So upcoming events, we'll put them in the chat. There's a whole bunch. Again, we always say this every week. We're in the DMV. There's a million networking events going on every single day of every single week around here. Just briefly, I am running a workshop on Friday. I still have a couple of seats for guests of 1 Million Cups. If you would like to join me, let me know. Drop me an email, put it in chat, and I can fix you up with a seat. It's at Reston Chamber this Friday. So schedule. Let's go through this. Where are we? Oh my God, it's October 1st already. Yes, so October 8th, we have Margot here. 15th, another virtual presentation. Hedia Slati from Promenade Services will be here. October 22nd, we'll do another virtual. That will be a town hall. How to leverage AI to make better decisions. I'm not sure who's presenting that, but I hear he's awesome. And then October 29th, another virtual, Jessica James, Madeline James will be presenting. So we do have open slots coming into November. If you would like to present to the 1 Million Cups community around your business and a challenge, let us know, and we can definitely get you set up. So as always, we say, hey, help us spread the word about our 1 Million Cups Fairfax. You can find us on YouTube, we're on X, LinkedIn, Facebook. All the links are in one place. Just scan the we go QR code crazy. I think this is Maria. I think she started all this. But you can scan the QR code, find us all in one place, spread the word. All right. I'm going to change that QR code just for fun. But yes, listen, once again, Timothy, thanks so much for your presentation. It was wonderful. And hey, hang around for a few minutes. We're going to be here. We've got a couple of minutes, and if anyone wants to ask anything else or say anything else, feel free. But Timothy, thanks again. That was amazing.